I want to make a video just talking about a subject. So I want to get some opinions from you. I want to get an opinion from Joe about this thing. I've not talked about it yet. The basis of what I want to talk about is naming musical projects. So I'm currently working on a load of different songs and EPs, whatever you want to call them, little musical projects. So I've got a little thing that's a cross between garage rock and electronic. I've got a little thing that's like kind of jazzy, emo stuff, like loads of different stuff that I'm experimenting with the intention that eventually I will release these things. But I don't want to release them as Lenny Bedford, name of song or name of album or name of EP, because I think the main thing is, as much as it might be a solo project, it's just me working on it, I don't want the garage rock electronic thing appearing like it's the same thing as like the jazz emo thing. Even though it's me, it's a solo thing by me, music made by me, and in theory it's the same artist. The artist is just me. But I don't want that to be the case. I want it to kind of be like side projects in which have different names and are their own artist, even though it's just one person. This dilemma in my mind has kind of triggered a thing that I've been thinking about for a long time, and it's about artists and the way that they evolve. So a great example of this is an artist like the Arctic Monkeys, who started as kind of a twangy indie band and went through like a darker, slower phase and came out as like kind of a pop indie band, like over the course of about 5 albums. Then you've got an artist like Paramore, who from the first album to the last album, they're totally different ends of the spectrum. And I've always had a bit of a problem with that being called the same thing, and it's always really bugged me that artists would change their sound and their genre or anything and stick with the same artist name, and that's always bugged me. And everyone that I've ever mentioned it to was always fine with it, because it's those people, even though they might have member changes or whatever, it's that artist making music. It doesn't matter what music that they make, because that artist is that artist, and any music assigned to that artist should just be taken as such. I can kind of go, okay, I'll accept that, that's fine. And then it comes to me making music, and I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't nail it's me making this thing, so I'll just call it me who's made this thing. I need a name, and I want it to be different for every type of thing that I make. And I don't know if this is a dilemma that is even talked about. This isn't a thing that I've ever heard anyone else mention, and in my mind it's such a massive thing to have names for different artists in different contexts and genres. And I wanted to open this up to a discussion. So before I ask you yourself, Joe, behind camera, what do you think about...
I'm of the opinion that if it's quite a decently sized band, e.g. Arctic Monkeys, Paramore, etc., I think it's fine when they keep their same name, because they have gone through a transformation as an artist. Like, they've been going for 5-10 years, whatever. They have gradually changed their sound throughout that time. But for you, you're doing this in the same space of time. So it's not like... It's not an evolution. It's not showing your evolution, so it's like different aspects of you that is coming out in different forms of music. So for your situation, yes, I would suggest doing separate names.
And not being me.
Yeah. However, look at when fucking Blink-182 did it. They, what did they do now? So they did pop punk for like, however many, 15 years.
Yeah.
And then they split up, and then they got back together, and then they did like weird electronic rock stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that was fine for them to keep their same name, because it showed their progression as people, and it was still sort of similar music. Like, someone who likes the old stuff will potentially like the new stuff. Maybe less so with Paramore, because the new stuff is really different from the old stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, provided it shows their progression as people as well as musicians, I think it's fine.
As a little side point here, I think the thing with Paramore and Fall Out Boy are similar too, is that they have always gone, what's popular, let's do that. Like in the mid-2000s, there was a big surge of this pop punk thing coming about. Blink-182 and Green Day had then made it massive. Like American Idiot came out in 2004. It was like, right, pop punk is going to be the way forward. Paramore show up, Fall Out Boy show up, Busted show up. And then 10 years later, that music's not big anymore. It's kind of funk inspired. Busted's newest album is almost tipping the hat towards 1975, that kind of thing. Those artists are specifically pandering towards what's popular at the time, which I think is slightly different. But I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, So I guess then we open this up to you. What do you feel about it? Do you agree with Joe that it's kind of subjective based on when the different style of thing is being made? Because if it is an evolution, then it is the same artist that has evolved. Or do you believe it would be closer to, if it's different, then it should be named different? Because I don't know. I think for me it's a big thing of, when I picture a thing, I picture it in a specific way. And it's a lot about, I guess, like stereotypes, being like, if someone says, have you heard the new Fall Out Boy album? I think old Fall Out Boy, and it's the new thing of that. Even if it's a totally different thing, which I get.
Totally the opposite.
That's totally the wrong mindset. And that's probably more of a fault on my part than it is on their part, which is the way that I kind of see it in my mind as being like, why aren't they doing the same thing as before? Because I haven't got a problem with bands evolving and stuff. It's always just been how it's named that's always struck a problem with me. I think is that we associate, or at least I associate, again I'm saying we as if this is like a universal thing, I always associate an artist with a specific thing, more so than like, say films. The person creating a film doesn't have a stage name or anything, it's just their name. So someone like Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino, if they're releasing a new film, there might be specific styled elements that you will expect, but there is no definite, I know what this film's going to be like because of previous things. There isn't really that projection of thing. You go into it with, this is a new thing that might be totally different to anything that they've done before, and I'm just going to watch it. I don't get that with albums. It's the exact opposite thing of, I'm expecting a certain thing, and then feel as though I've been cheated if they've totally changed what it is.
See, when I'm going to listen to an album, I kind of, first of all, I see what artist it is, so I can gauge what to expect, and then I see when they released it, and then I compare that to stuff that they've released throughout their career, and if that falls between a certain two albums that I know to be in a certain style, then I can expect something in the middle.
Yeah, which is, I guess, the logical way of thinking it. I think a lot of this is kind of like an abstract thought kind of
because
thing of what is an artist.
If every band changed the name when they changed the sound, there'd be fucking millions of different artist names, even more than there already is.
Yeah, I mean, but in terms of a way of promoting each individual thing, would that be a better thing? Because there's a chance that if you started off as like a pop punk band, for example, and then gradually evolved to just be kind of like pop, are you still going to be tarred with the same brush that you used to be tarred with?
Potentially,
because of your newer stuff. I think that's a big problem with it, and my solution of name different things if it's different, if it is different, would solve that problem, because it's a new thing and you can't judge it by the old thing because it's a different thing. I
think if you're going to release these things around the same time, so you're going to have multiple artists running simultaneously, obviously name them differently. I think that's fine, but when you have a band like Arctic Monkeys, who is clearly
on a path.
Yeah, on a path. They've done one thing, they do another thing, they do another thing chronologically. It doesn't really make sense for them to change the name, because then it'd just be like Arctic Monkeys stopped at one stage and then another band started, which isn't really the case.
Yeah, it is still the same artist. And this gets way more complicated when you start changing members, and especially if it's a vocalist that's changing and that kind of thing, because it's the entire style and members change, which is essentially changing everything about the artist. And if you keep the name, that's kind of not lying, but it's...
Like, look at Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave. I believe Tom Morello does the majority of the writing for both of those bands.
And if I'm not mistaken, the drum and the bass is carried over as well.
Yeah, the drum and the bass is carried over, so they've only got different vocalists, and they changed the name.
Yeah.
Even though the style isn't overly that different, in my opinion.
And I believe they do play some of each other's songs. I don't know. I don't think Rage play any Audioslave songs, but I think the other way around they do. I'm not 100%, but I think that is the case.
Well, they have PRS for it, so why not?
Yeah.
I think it just is subjective. It depends on the situation.
Yeah. So this, obviously, if you haven't already typed your comment, opens this up to you. What do you feel about it? Because this is so open-ended and quite abstract that this is open for debate. And I genuinely want to make this video to get your opinions, because I think I'm going to solve my problem by doing what my gut tells me, and that's name the things different and ignore my name. Don't put my name to any specific music. Name each its own little artist side project name. But what do you feel about, like, big picture wise, about like artists evolving, or as we were talking about with Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave, if you change a member and it's a crucial member, should you then change the artist name to stay true to the fact that it is a totally different thing? don't know. What do you think? Do you have any similar experiences of kind of what I'm going through and the kind of dilemma that I'm in? I'm interested to know. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos from this series where we teach a bit about the industry and also have discussions like this, click the link there. And if you want to see our best of playlist, it's right there.